In fact, as the guests and the speakers are in front on the stage, as part of the panel members that has been selected, distinguished fellow in their own right to talk to us on the subject, the role of government and policymakers in the employment creation. That's the topic that we are going to concentrate. My name is Karukiro Shienda. I'm the moderator, the Director of Planning, Omaheke Regional Council. In fact, I was informed that the young people have selected questions for you. They have selected questions that they want to engage you on, and I will definitely just go to pose those questions to you. You answer them to the best of your ability, and then we can ask follow-up questions from the young people themselves, whether you have exhausted all the answers or they want some additional issues and remarks and observations to be made by yourself. So that will be the setup and arrangements of the panel discussion that we are going to conduct now. The first question that I was going to pose is, and I will start with Mr. Bukula. What are the specific initiatives or programs that government can implement to stimulate job creation in Omaheke? What are the specific initiatives or programs that government can implement to stimulate job creation in Omaheke?
Well, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I think in response to that question, in fact, if I may, before I talk about programs, I think the minimum that any government in any part of the world can do in order to stimulate job opportunities and economic development is to do everything it can to create an environment that's enabling, recognizing that governments are not job creators. The private sector creates jobs. So creating an environment that's conducive for the private sector to thrive and create those jobs and create the minimum amount of obstacles in the economy. So I think at a minimum, that's what any government should aim to do. In terms of programs, there could be all kinds of programs, educational programs, mentorship programs, programs that foster innovation, programs that provide capital like what we see behind us. There could be all kinds of programs. We can talk about specifics, but I think at the barest minimum, what every government should do, including the government here, is to make sure that it facilitates an environment that creates the minimum amount of obstacles to private sector success.
Thank you very much. Honorable Pagi, can you continue with that? If you have got any additions to make, please.
Thank you very much. Now, I think the first thing is to look at the statutory requirements and mandate that the government has. And Namibia as a country, we have defined ourselves where we want to go by 2030. So we have Vision 2030. But in order to get there, we have Harambee Prosperity Plan, and I want to extract one thing among the pillars, which is accelerations of economic development through the participations of locals. You have the growth at home strategy that talks about value addition. Once again, to make sure that our raw material resources that we have are owned by us, we share, we're part of the value chain. Now, having all those legislative and enabling environment that has been created, you now need to unpack them and make them relevant to each region, because each region has its uniqueness. Now, when we talk about Omaheke, we are known as a cattle country. However, there are low-hanging fruits when you look at a constituency like Aminus that has underground water that is probably easily to be accessed. You have areas like Samandown, where we have a very fertile soil, and rainfall is also above average normally. Then we also look at the other pockets in other constituencies where we can still tap, make sure that some of the aquifer that has been found in ASAP, also in Ochobinde area, and Epukiros, make sure that the little water we had, and I think the statement of this morning said that the underground water available right now, if we harvest it, extract it, actually it's more than the water we are expecting from the rain. So now those are the variables that we need to look at and position the region. But Master the Moderator, the first thing that we need to do, if we are to play that meaningful role, is to come up with an investment policy for Omaheke region. We currently don't have an investment policy that will detect, stipulate any investors coming into this region in terms of the employment, as well as the return on investment, as well as investment in other areas in terms of their corporate social responsibility. These things has to be, because we don't have to handle it case by case, personality by personality. It must be dictated and guided by principle, and this principle should be the Regional Council, or Omaheke Regional Council should formulate and adopt such a policy. That's key, number one. The role of government is broad, and it's true that government is not there to be in business or to conduct a business, but is there to facilitate, to create that environment where different stakeholders, entrepreneurs, and in this particular case, youth, the youth dividends we spoke about it, hasn't yet been tapped into. And that's why Omaheke, under the leadership of the chairperson, this motion was tabled, and today it's conceived as from yesterday and today, and that is to look at those things. And I think there are still areas that we can improve on in terms of implementing what we have, and I would like to, let me restate probably what the Deputy Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, the Minister of International Relations, Nandi Daitwa, said when she was in Erongo. She said, we need to reflect and look at what works well, what has taken us this far, and we need to look at what did not work and fix them. So we don't have to fix what is not broken, but we need to look at those areas that needs improvement and fix them as soon as possible. Maybe in the first instance, I will say that for now.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dr. Abanga, you have discussed this morning, but from the perspective of Ghana, an experience from Ghana, what are those initiatives and programs that government should implement to create employment opportunity for a region such as Omaheke?
Thank you very much. I'm going to do something very conventional. Can we all stand? You guys have been sitting down for a long time. Just stand and stretch out for 30 seconds. Just stand. You know, just shake yourself a little bit. At least for 30 seconds. You guys have been sitting down for a very long time. Just stretch yourself. You know? All right. You can sit down. You can sit down. Sit down. You know, I'm going to... I want to address this issue on, you don't mind me standing, right? Can I stand?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'd like to stand. I want to address two key issues. There's always a saying that you have to work with what you have. I've lived outside Africa for about 40 years, and I see that they have systems in place that works, especially in the United States. They have something they call small business administration. Young people like you guys like this, you come, they'll give you a website, you go, whatever business you want to conduct, you go in there. There are incentives that you go in and you get to start your business. In Africa, we don't have that. Sometimes you want to go and register a business as a first-time business person, and you have to tip some, you have to do a lot of things. So what I will add is that government is not a great job creator like my colleagues have just mentioned. Government are regulators, government create the environment, and government are the police to make sure that you are doing the right thing. I would like to break this thing in two areas. Let's talk about jobs, and let's talk about being an entrepreneur. Some of you sitting down here, you don't need a job. You need to own your own business. So what government can do in that sense is to give you an incentive. Number one, that if you're a first-time entrepreneur, if registration is $50, you pay $20. The government will subsidize. If you don't have money, enough money to start whatever business, the government will give you a subsidy or will guarantee to any bank to give you, to be their guarantor so that you can get a loan. The government can give you a tax incentives that, listen, if you start to make bread, for the first 1 year, you don't pay tax. The government can say, okay, even if you are credit worthy and you go to the bank to get a credit, the interest rate, the government would absorb it. The government can say, okay, you want to open a sanitary factory. You got to go to China to get the equipment. The government can say, okay, you get the pro forma invoice. We will pay half of it. So the government can do a lot. But this part of the world that we're in, we don't have that. So what should we do? How many of you here have iPhones? How many of you? If you have an iPhone and you're a young fellow, raise your hand. Most of the time, the cell phones that young people used to buy, they use the amount of money they used to invest in cell phone, can start a business. So, I don't know, but I think we have to, government have to start to create the environment by motivating the young people like this. We can have maybe a bank come in and say, listen, we will waive all your interests and we'll give you a loan if you can give us a business plan. So I think government has a lot to do to help propel entrepreneurs and create jobs than being the one giving jobs. Because most of the students right now, when they graduate from school, the first thing they want government job. If you get a government job, the only thing you'll be thinking about is retirement. That's it. But if you think of being an entrepreneur, you will have people work for you and you will help them retire. So I think what the government can do is to create the necessary environment, especially the young people, to make loans available, capital available. The last thing before I say it is that, like this region, you can build a complex. The government can build a complex called an incubator. You build an incubator in this region, and then look like this. You ask, what do you want to do? They'll tell you what they want to do. Can you get a business plan? The government can get consultants in those incubators for people who want to do specific business to go there, to go into those incubators, just be consultants. This young man comes, listen, I want to do a taxi business. They will help them to do the business proposal, lead them to the banks to get credit. The incubators, they will have offices there. Instead of paying $200 a month, you subsidize and say pay $100 or $75 a month. When they start making money, they will not like to be there. That's another point. Secondly, agriculture, which that's my area. Agriculture is the only, all these wealthy countries in the world is based on agriculture. I want to give an example. In Ghana, the government created something they call youth in agriculture. And what they did is that they gave them a seed money that is equivalent to 10,000 Namibian dollars. And what they did, they assigned extension officers. They found a land and they developed the land development, land preparation, seeding, harvesting, post-harvest technology. The government put expert. So if you want to grow maize, they give you 2 hectares. The 2 hectares is yours. The government will help you to get the seed. They will provide the machinery, the fertilizer. When you harvest, they will take 50% of it and the rest is yours. So I think those are the areas. But looking at this, you need to have a business incubator where you have experts to train people to be entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In fact, the programs have been alluded to. We are saying, in fact, government is not a creator of jobs. They must create enabling environment. Amongst other environment, the last speaker have alluded to is this thing of incubator, where you either give a plot or you give a center with expertise where the youth are going to go. So these are amongst other things that we are talking about. But the fact that I want the youth to challenge us, to challenge this conference, whether we have got those things in Omaheke, when you are coming with the discussions and recommendations on the way forward. But those are what the first question has referred to. Question number 2, what are the strategies that government can adopt to bridge the skills gap in the local workforce to ensure that job seekers possess a necessary qualification to available employment opportunities? The issues of skills and knowledge, can we address that? What can government do? Honorable Paki.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much once again. And I think that I have to take it from the angle of the report from the World Bank suggests that in any given nation, only 3% can become successful entrepreneur. But with the transformation from entrepreneurs to agripreneurs, of which Doctor is alluding to now, and that's the model Ghana has moved with, is that number has tripled of the rate in terms of the success rate if we are venturing into agriculture, because there are more opportunities in agriculture. Now, a few years ago when I was in Israel, I realized that there is a deliberate intervention through the collaborations between the government and the private sector, where the financial institutions are funding failures more than the startups. Those who have failed first time, second time, to third time, they are getting more funding than the startups. And in so doing, the ripple effect has changed because when someone has tried something and failed, either because of capital or because of the equipment or whatever, it's easier for that person to pick up, and they end up employing more people in the market. And it has changed the equations of the repayment rate to the bank as well, and therefore the enhancement of the socio-economic development has also trickled by that. Thirdly, with the notion of, I said, right now, the school system that we have if it does not alter and change the mindset from obtaining a certificate, a degree, diploma, but to a point where the mindset being created through the schooling system up to tertiary institutions is to make sure that it prepares the graduates. When I'm saying the graduates, I'm not only talking about the university, even VTCs, or the vocational center, for them to start their own jobs. And that's the gap that we need to bridge right now. Now, ordinarily, it takes 4 years for any textbook to get to the market, from scripting, writing. Now, at the time it reached, meaning the book that you are reading now, it was written 4 years ago. But what the market demands now, with the artificial intelligence, all technological advancement, are things that gap is so huge that, and that's why I agree with the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industrialization this morning, that we need to prepare the future leaders, the youth, to make sure that the requirements, the skills they possess are the skills and the knowledge required by the markets. Right now, there is that big skills gap, knowledge gap. That's why today, once you get a job, you need to take the employees again for drilling, training, retraining. Now, with that notion I'm referring to, that's why if you go to some of the institutions, they talk about corporate cloning. What do they do? That's why before you've been given a job, not only by virtue of interviews, they make sure sometimes even the bank have started where you go for a 6 months training course to make sure that, number one, you live and understand the brand of that particular company and the products offerings, and you also possess the right attitude. Now, one thing is not necessarily about skills and knowledge, is whether we prepare people to have the correct attitude, because the attitude determines the altitude. And right now, looking at our youth, one of the challenges is that our altitude is low in terms of when we need to pitch if we are to contribute and size on the opportunity presented by all this environment. So perhaps these are some of the things we need to look at. Thank you.
Maybe before a complementary question to my next speaker is relating to how can government collaborate with educational institutions and industries to industry stakeholders to develop targeted training programs that align with the needs of the local market. That's the skill gap that you have talked about. Maybe you can elaborate a bit on that one. The link between the employments and the high institutions of higher learning in terms of filling the gap.
Thank you, sir. In fact, part of the answer is contained in your question that I was going to give, because the point I was going to make is, it seems pretty simple to me, this particular aspect, because speaking in a generalized way, governments are generally producers of skills because they control the education sector. I'm speaking in a generalized way. So in many countries, it is public sector entities. If in a country that I come from, it's a mixed setup. You've got a lot of private sector entities that educate and produce skills, deliver training, but the biggest chunk of it is done by the public sector institutions, schools, colleges, universities, and that kind of stuff. So in a generalized sense, the government is the producer of skills and knowledge through the institutions that it controls. And speaking again in a generalized sense, the private sector is the user of those skills. So if you're talking about the supply of skills and knowledge and the demand for skills and knowledge, so the private sector drives the demand and the public sector drives the supply. I'm speaking in a generalized way. And what really seems very simple to me is that if those two sides of this equation would talk to each other a lot more effectively, would partner a lot more effectively, would collaborate a lot more effectively. Much more can be achieved in terms of the outcomes that are produced by the supply side, and a lot more benefits would flow to the demand side of that equation. What you tend to find in South Africa, for instance, we've got a system that was created by government, which was to facilitate this partnership between the public and the private sector, a system of institutions we call the Sector Education and Training Authorities, SETAs for short. Now, each industry has a Sector Education and Training Authority. The Sector Education and Training Authority is a creation of government, it's regulated by government, but it's private sector funded, because the money that funds those sector education and training authorities is a wage contribution by the private sector, right? Up to a certain level. If your wage bill per month, per annum is beyond a certain threshold, you are required to contribute 1% of your wage bill to a sector education and training authority in your industry. So in our industry, for instance, tourism, we have a sector education and training authority with a long name. I'm not going to bore you with the name, but it's called CATH-SETA. So the task of that entity is to work with that industry, both sides of it, the supply side being the educational sector and the demand side of it being the private sector, to fully understand not only the current skills needs of that sector, but its future skills needs as well. By understanding the trends around the world in that sector and responding in a proactive way, not in a reactive way, to the future skills that that sector is going to demand. If that system works well, it addresses to a large degree the issue of the relevance of the skills and knowledge that are produced and increases substantially the absorption capacity of the sector. The challenge that you find is that when that system is not working effectively, right? It does not facilitate this conversation, and so you have the education system going this way and the private sector going that way. And therefore the education system is producing skills that are not responsive to the current and future skills needs of the private sector. And that creates a big gap. Now, if those institutions themselves that were created to bridge this gap become a system unto themselves and isolate themselves either from the supply, both from the supply and demand sides of that equation, that the system is pretty much ineffective. So the instruments are there. It's just what is necessary is to bring them together. And you'll find that the private sector is the one that calls for this a lot more, calls for this collaboration, this working together. But sometimes we find, I don't know what the situation here is in the great Namibia, but certainly where I come from, you just find that sometimes most of the system is talking past each other instead of talking to one another and working together, right? And if we can fix that, I think, we have a large part of the solution that we seek.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other panel that want to talk to that issue?
Well, I think I want to, maybe this would be for the government officials. When you're entering this city, it's called the cattle city, right? There are people in Norway, in Finland, in Sweden, European Union, that on their dining tables, they eat meat. And those cattle comes from here. And I'm going back to government. Look, government can't talk to the Norwegian government and say, listen, we can give you a subsidized pricing if you can set up a vaccination factory, a vaccine factory in our region. For instance, the government can do that. We give you meat. All we need from you, set a vaccine factory in Omaheke. This room would have been empty If you have a vaccine factory, you know how many people it's going to employ? The government can tell the European Union, say, listen, we want a veterinary institution, a veterinary training institution. Not everybody can be a veterinary doctor, but they can be a veterinary technician. Some of the cattle medicine, they can open the factory right here. You shouldn't have abattoirs in other regions. I'm going to get in trouble for this, but you should have the modernized abattoir in this region, right here. And a dam should have been built. The government can build a dam here that can irrigate up to 5,000 hectares of fuller to feed the cattle. That's what government can do. If you have about 5,000 or 6,000 hectares of irrigated land, you can apportion. I don't think people in here are up to 300 people, or there are 500 or 600. You can give them 5 hectares each and train them and say, listen, we'll be an off-taker. You produce the fuller. We'll give you machinery, we'll give you fertilizer, we'll give you the seed, we'll be the off-taker. Government can do that. So it is an easy thing to create jobs. You know, the most shameful thing in Africa, government come and say, we'll build a hospital, we'll build a road. Look, it's just like a parent. It is your responsibility to educate your children. It is the responsibility of government to build hospitals. It is the responsibility of government to build schools. Government should not be, nobody should clap for government for building hospitals and building roads. It's their responsibility. Guys, look, in Africa, before we can move forward, we have to be very straight and direct and deal with issues. We got to deal with what we got. Look, this is frank talk. Let's stop playing this game, you know, and get to real business. Let's tell the Europeans, look, you eat our meat, we need a vaccine factory in Omaheke. You don't do it, we don't give you meat. You still want our meat? Okay, 200 euro per kilo. Put pressure on them. Build a school here. So government has a lot to do for us. You know, so we got to get into real business and stop playing this game. You know, these young people, look at their faces. I mean, some of us are yet like your governor said, we're on our way out. But these guys are the future. So we can't be playing with them. So what we need to do, we need to sit on the right table, policymakers, and say, listen, this is what we have. You give me this, I give you that. It's transactional. So I think, anyway, probably get in trouble for all this stuff. But I think we can do better. This region, in the dining table across Europe, in Ghana, you know, people ate meat. When I took meat to Ghana, Namibian meat, people were arguing that, no, this meat is not from Africa. They were shocked that such a meat is in Africa. So you got something heavy, something nice. You give me that, I give you that. So to stop all this unemployment, let's do that. Let's start to renegotiate. Say, listen, you do this for us, we do that for you. I'm going to do something, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to say something, I'll shut up. You know, I see some auctions here. Huh? You see the auctions? The authorities here can say, listen, we will find 2 persons and create jobs for them. They will be cleaning that auction. And the auctioneer, you pay them. Maybe that person get a contract to clean the auction. You can hire 3 or 4 persons. You tell the auctioneer, we'll give you a tax break in the region if you give them this contract. It is very easy to create jobs. We have to be innovative. You know, when COVID came, we created stuff to protect ourselves. Didn't we?
Yeah.
So we can do it, you know. So I don't know.
No, thank you very much. We are being reminded that we must negotiate with our government. Tell government what we want as young people. And it is the responsibility of government to put that system into place in order to create those opportunities for the young people. And the question remains, at the end of the day, what is those issues that you want as young people? And I hope we're going to deliberate on that to tell government in order to fulfill its responsibility. Next question. Next question, sorry. And now it relates to SMEs now. These are young people that we have told this morning they need not to remain SMEs, but they are SMEs that need to be nurtured. And therefore, what are the measures that can policymakers put in place to support and promote the growth of small businesses, which are known to be significant contributors to employment generation? Yes. Septi? Repeat. What measures can policymakers put in place to support and promote the growth of small businesses, which are known to be significant contributors to the employment generation? What is that we can do and tell the policymakers to do?
Well, I guess the doctor has spoken to some specifics on that particular question in his first response to your first question. And I did allude to the fact that there's a whole range of interventions that a government can put in place. I'm going to address some, and I'm going to leave the rest of my colleagues to address others. I think for me, there's a number of critical factors for success in any business. And many of which can be facilitated by the government. And as I say, the doctor has spoken to some of those. But one of those critical factors is just access to information. A lot of would-be entrepreneurs do not embark on the entrepreneurial journey just because they lack information about a whole range of things, right? They lack information about trends in markets and industries. I'm reminded of an institute in Italy which was dedicated, let's take an example, to the fashion and clothing industry. And what it specialized in was to understand global trends in that industry. It was a research institute, global trends in that industry, and the opportunities that were emerging across the globe in that industry, and it would bring that industry to local entrepreneurs, so that local entrepreneurs are not producing things that are not demanded in this local environment and across the globe. So that high level of information where we understand the trends, the gaps, the opportunities, and all kinds of other information in terms of, for instance, what support is available. And the doctor has spoken about that. What government programs can you tap into if you wanted to start a business in this particular sector? What support programs can I tap into? For instance, over the past 2 days, my wife and I have been privileged to travel this region with a friendly tour operator and come to understand the richness of this region from a tourism point of view. The potential in this region, but how many potential young entrepreneurs sitting here understand those opportunities and can tap into those opportunities? Without that information, they are not able to do so without the supply side support that they need of various types and magnitudes, as the doctor has said. Those opportunities will go untapped. So that's one thing, the information. So in some parts of the world, like in my country, and I'm sure there would be here in this country as well, certainly in large cities, is where you have these one-stop shops where you can get all this information. Incubators have been mentioned by the doctor earlier, and that kind of support. So that's one part, and then I'm going to leave the rest to my colleagues. But the crucial thing for any business to succeed is to have not only a product, but it must have a market. And there must be an understanding of the market, and there must be mechanisms to help young entrepreneurs have access to markets. I always argue in my country that if you can solve one thing for entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs, if you can solve the market access issue, the rest they will take care of themselves. Quite frankly, you can dispense with all these programs that we've spoken about. If an entrepreneur here can produce a product and there's a market for them to sell it, they can take that product to market and sell it, and revenue, they will finance their own business. So you may not even have to worry that much about financing those entrepreneurs if you can deal with the issue of market access, right? And I think that that's one of the critical things that our governments need to look at. And today, of course, with the ubiquity of technology, you have an instrument there that is your friend in terms of creating market access. So I've dealt with only 2 issues. There are others. I've dealt with market access issues. I've dealt with access to information issues. But that's by no means the sum total of what a government can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think from the regional council point of view, or government point of view, I don't think as a country in Namibia, we are short of necessary legislation. When you look at the 1997 white paper policy of the SME development, that has gone through stages, and where we are now, with the recent remarks by the Honorable Minister of Industrialization, Trade and Industrialization, of advancing equipment, necessary equipment for entrepreneurs, for their business, to make sure manufacturing and all these things are taking place. I think one of the things that we are not doing well, of course, I'm not sure that should be a role of government or between government, but perhaps with institutions or like NCCI and etc., if they are there. The issue of ideas mining. As they are sitting here, the youth, even as far as Okomboha or Shuarongo or Kalpat somewhere in Epukiro, they are youth with brilliant ideas. But how do they get these ideas? Or as institutions of government, how do we get to know of these ideas that could easily, some unique ideas that could add value? I'm sitting here, I think in our mix, I have a gentleman from Epukiro, Pastor Isaac Hange, who is a welder, but he occasionally employs between 7 to 9 students from various VTC. But I agree, lack of information and lack of access to market. But I think we have not yet taken in terms of the business cycle, from ideation, selection of business ideas, screening, micro and macro screening of these ideas. And that's why sometimes the youth lose hope in the process. They could knock at doors, or they are not knocking at the right doors. Now, I've seen in some parts of the world where, as the Omaheke Regional Council or Shodonjuba Regional Council, when you go there, knock there, they will be having a database of the potential of some ideas that need funding. That's why today, when the Bank of Namibia or Development Bank comes here and they ask officials that we who have money, we want to fund. Which business idea are they? Are not known. And that's why now, if you go to what we say the Global Competitiveness Index, you realize that among those variables, one of the things that makes it difficult for Namibians to seize on the opportunity of the youth is risk-taking. And it's something that we haven't been prepared for by our parents or in school. Some of these things we leave it perhaps because there's so much comfort zone around in terms of how, as long as I got a job, as long as I can pay my rents and things like that. But to say, this is the decision I'm gonna take, I could go drive for a year or two, but I know once I hit running, I will not go back. Risk-taking is one of the impeding factors that is among us, and I think that's why the issue of entrepreneurial culture that was not, or agripreneur culture that was not that very well embedded in terms of our offering education system. So that's one thing we must be addressed. Yes, we could talk about market, accessing of the market and market shares. Now, the reality is that Namibia is a co-signatory to the Africa Trade Agreements and any others. Now, what does it say and what does it mean? Only a product or a service that is cheaper and better that will win in the market. And for you to do that, you need to have the right skills, but you need to know and understand the business, the segment, and the dynamics for you to do that. And the youth right now, there are numbers of, and I agree with the previous speakers as well, the panelists, we still have fragmented, very good things, but they are so fragmented. There is no integration or harmonization from education to agriculture, tourism, and etc. Everyone does their own little thing. Even banking sectors or financial institutions, they fund, but sometimes they don't know what. It's just for them to give statistics that we have given loans to X numbers of people. But what are those loans have gone into? Which type of viable business proposition have you funded? And can they really transform and create employment? And I'm talking about sustainable employment, and that could yield profit or profitability in the long run. So these are all the issues, and I think we are at the right space right now, and that's why Omaheke Regional Council has taken these steps of the seed capital. Now, we know that's only a one single thing step, as the Honorable Kawaka said yesterday, that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first steps. But we need to make sure that we package all these variables to make sure that youth are not only being enabled in terms of lending infrastructure, financing is there, but can they be mentored? Can they be handheld for a while? And can they graduate to the next level? Now, of course, based on the Namibian business surveys, is that you refer to the supply-sided constraint, the demand-sided constraint are some of the factors that are impeding them. But my bottom line is that Ministry of Youth, if they think about, for them is to bring youth together, and it does not have an element of economic infusion. If trade are doing that, we need to make sure that in all what we do, at the center should be economic advancement of this country, of the region, and different localities. And I know under discussions, it's not in a discussion, and that's why we need to, Honorable Chairperson, we need to put it in the policy that I refer to, the decision taken or resolution that to any tender awarded, 40% of the job must go to youth. 40% of any tendering process job we must make sure, and this must be mandatory. So there are numbers of interventions we could do, but the challenge right now is that we need to identify them through these 3 days, but then we need to package them. But we need also to collaborate with the financial institution and also the business fraternity. I'm seeing Waki is there, who is, has been in the industry of tourism. But you speak with him, you realize sometimes he's sitting with some opportunities, but funding because of other requirements, collateral and things like that. You pass these things to someone else. I think Omaheke region, but the issue again, and that's why I'm looking at youth, Ministry of Youth, Trade. If we have taken unidentified 30 youth or potential entrepreneurs, these things of training 30, you train others for statistics. If you have taken a group of 20, take them, handhold them, until they set up their business, until they even have access to the markets. We should not be more, the in thing is like 100, 200 people has been trained. I'm not interested in that. Even if 25 has been taken through the correct process and they were well supported, I'm sure we can get this region and we can turn it around.
Thank you very much. We have actually heard from the speakers. Amongst other things, I believe we cannot repeat. Amongst other things, they are talking about government, as I said, is not a creator of employment. It's a creator of enabling environment. Enabling environment is policies. We have talked about incentives, amongst others, incentives, taxing, subsidies, absorbs interest rates so that can be paid by government to support SMEs. We have talked about, as part of the incentives, maybe we can also talk about the building of the incubator centers, building of a plot, complete plot, give it to the young people, so that at least there is a market that will follow the skills. Market needs to be created so that skills can be generated, because that's what is very important. We have also heard that there are critical factors that needs to be looked into. Two of them, critical ones, access to information. The young people should at least have basic understanding of what is there in the market, what is there in the world, what is there in Omaheke, what is there in Namibia, so that that information is power for them to decide as to which projects they need to initiate with. We have heard of a business system, business center that can be created where a one-stop shop, you can go and get access to consultants and information, and then you can decide as to which one you want to go into. Fragmentations of players, I think very much important, and I think that responsibility should be given to the young people to say that what are those institutions that we are going to create in order to coordinate at a different level in terms of financing, in terms of skilling, and things like that. So that responsibility should be a recommendation that should come out of this workshop. If youth forums, for example, are not doing the best, how should they be empowered, strengthened, in order to facilitate the coordinations of support system to the young people? So those are amongst other things. Doctor, you want to give a last comment, and then I can ask one or two questions from the floor, please.
Well, you know, talk is cheap. In America, they say talk is cheap.
Talk is cheap.
Yeah, talk is cheap. I think in Africa, we just like to talk. You know, it's just talk and talk, you know. I was talking to other guys out there when I was a kid, and I'm kind of old guy. I look fresh though, but I'm very old. They set up the Organization of African Unity. All this president goes over there, all over the country. They just go there. They have a good time. Just talk and nothing happens. ECOWAS, the format, whatever, it's just talk. SADC, it's the same talk. You know, can you both stand? I want you to, yeah, you and him to stand. You know, I am very proud of you and your team. Very, very proud. And I think you guys have been to Ghana and you know who I am in Ghana. Because of this wonderful work that you have done, we want this region to be the example that will go around all the country, the 14 regions. I have a company, it's a group. I run 4 companies. And I want you to write, somebody to write this down. I will fund half of the incubator that you build. Half of it, I will pay for it. So if you do the estimate, it is 1 million Namibian dollar, I will pay 500,000. If it is 500, I will pay 250. The next thing is, and I want you to write this down. Make sure you write it down. Because what we're going to do here, what is happening here, shouldn't end here. We want these things to go around all the 16 regions. It's going to start right here. Because this is your baby, this is your idea. And we're going to make it happen. Apart from paying half, I will sponsor 100 young entrepreneurs. If they come up with a tangible business proposal, I will give them a seed of 5,000 Namibian dollars as a start. So what you need to do is to go to work. Let's meet and let's find the land, and let's put the business incubator there. And those who are interested in agriculture, there's going to be an opportunity for you in agriculture. Horticulture, fish, if you want to do fish ponds, you can register with them. If you want to breed sheep, because we want the sheep to send the meat to West Africa, you can register. We want goat. If you are doing goat, we can partner with you to do that. In Africa, we have to stop the talking and then get to business. So, I'm saying this because I see that you love your country. I am an African, I'm a black guy. And I'm not prejudiced and I don't hate other race. But look around, how many white people are here? How many white unemployed children are here? Look around. Turn around and look. I'm not prejudiced. So we got to take care of our own. If we don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So we'll set the tone and the government will follow.
Thank you very much. The tone has been set, and we're not talking anymore. We're acting. The opportunity has been granted to you as young people. It will be coordinated, the mechanism, there will be modalities will be put in place, and it will be announced as to how to access that opportunities. I want to have 3 questions. Honorable Kachido have got one youth from my sister there, and then the last one, my sister there, then we can end the discussions there. Can roaming mic? Let the youth start. My sister at the back. Roaming back at the back. Introduce your name, which constituency you are coming from, and straight to the point. Mike, can you come in front? Because we are talking business now. Business is here. Preferably one question at a time.
Thank you so much for the floor. Thank you so much for the floor. My name is Promise Mazila from Trans-Kalahari. Beta Post, yes. Thank you. Actually, my question was based on Master Dr. Banda. He says that lately they've been exporting a lot of cattle country. It's just a concern as an Omaheke resident in our hometown. How many of us has access to a meat? We basically don't even afford our own meat product, but yet we can see that a lot of people are able to eat this meat product from other homesteads, while yet ourselves we can't even afford meat in our own country. So we wanted to understand if there was a factory that one of us can be able to establish, one in Omaheke region, whereby our youth can be able to afford at least to eat meat, then we know. We also require transparency from our leaders so that they can be able to make sure that when things like this, they are being established, there is a way that all of us, we have equality to access. Because we cannot only be able to only afford to feed those ones who continue to grow while the poor remains poor. When are we going to be part of the pie? Thank you.
Thank you.
What is the summary of the question? I didn't get it.
I believe I also miss.
Yeah, what is this? My dear, what is your specific question? The mic was kind of...
Yeah, the mic.
The mic was messed up. Come, take this one. Be very specific.
Okay. Thank you so much once again. My very important question here is on meat product. We as the Omaheke region, the youth, we can't afford a piece of 1 kg meat. Yet, we as the Omaheke cattle country that produces a lot of meat to export to other countries, you are able to afford to eat it, yet we can't afford to eat it. We also want to eat what you are eating over there.
So the question, excuse, don't go. Come. So how many kg of meat do you want to eat today? A kg.
This 1 kg.
How much a kg of meat?
It's already 100 and something. I can afford 100.
How much? How much a kg? Griffin, are you in the... My driver, come here. Give her 200 to buy 1 kg. Do you want a job or you want to do business?
I want to do business.
You want to do business? Okay. What I will do, listen to me. Do you have a store? Can you get a store?
Actually, I have a kindergarten in Beta Post.
You do what?
I have a kindergarten in Beta Post. A daycare,
center.
an ECD center.
Early childhood.
Okay, but do you want to sell meat?
Yes.
Can you get a store?
Yes.
You get a
We
store?
have a kitchen at our school.
Okay, so this is what I want to do. I'm also going to challenge you.
Okay.
If I empower you with 2 fridge,
Yes.
okay, you will also have to marry 5 people and help them to do the same business you're doing within 2 years. Can you do that?
Yes, I can take up on the challenge.
So I will give you a fridge.
Yes.
You find it. All right? I will talk to BH Meat here. They will sell meat at a very reasonable price for you to retail the meat.
Okay.
But you have to marry 5. I'm not saying, you understand what I'm saying. You also have to help other 5 people to do the same thing you are doing. Do we have a deal?
Yes.
Do we have a deal?
Yes.
So
Thank
you
so
talk
much.
there.
Thank you very much. Please, Secretariat, please list, take her name, register her name. Secretariat, please register her name. Sari, Mati.
You know, this is what we need. You know, this is what we need. You should not be afraid to speak. Don't be afraid to speak.
Yeah.
You should be bold to speak. Go after what you want. And I like that question. The meat, the cattle are here. They don't afford to eat. We are eating it over there. That's a legitimate question. So we should be bold. You know, before I sit down, I just want to give you guys, because you see, you need to be motivated. You need to be motivated. I'm not that rich guy that you think. I have a background. I used to walk 16 kilos a day to go to school. 16, 8 to go, 8 to come, 1.6 a day for 8 years. I started farming when I was 11 years old. You know, one day my children are Americans, and my daughter, who's 11 years, I was telling her the story. He said, well, Daddy, it's good that Grandpa is not alive. He'd have been jailed for child abuse. You know, all I'm trying to say, listen, it has nothing to do where you are today. Whatever you want to be in life, you can be. You can change the paradigm of your life. I remember 1983. I had a scholarship, 5 universities in the United States. My father couldn't afford $450 to buy me a ticket to go. All I needed to leave Accra to New York, that's it. He wasn't able to afford. But do you know what made it happen? Because I believe that it must happen. The most powerful thing on this planet is a human being. All of you are from homes. You can sit down here and picture what is in your room, can't you? We have to stop crying baby. You can be whoever you want to be if you set your mind on it. Where you are is not an issue. Where you want to be, it is the question. So now when you move out of here, go and have a vision board. Write the things you want for your life. What type of business? Don't worry about the money. The money will come. I think 2 years ago, you didn't have an idea that you're going to be sitting here and hearing somebody crazy like me talking. Here we are. The most powerful thing on this planet is a human being. Because there are good books that say that we are created in the image of the one who made us. That's more powerful. And you can be whoever you want to be. The problem with us I mean black people, is the way we think. When you move out of here, think positive. Whatsoever a man thinketh, so is he. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My sister there, in fact, there is one statement saying that don't ask what your country can do for you. Do what? Ask what you are going to do for your country. These questions that we have posed, maybe young people, you must answer them as well. Yeah? What are the specific interventions programs that you think government can implement to stimulate job creation? Can you come up with some of those answers? Yes, you can come here. And then the last one, and then Honorable will close.
Am I okay? Good morning. Mine is
Name and from where you are coming from.
Oh, my name is Litia Kandetu Kadapwa. I'm from Hopapes and Kalahari constituency, both. And I'm advocating to end waste to landfill and also advocating to end hunger in Namibia among the children, since they are always at the dump site. So now, I don't know whether mine is most a question, and also I just make it to make a input. Why I also come to advocating for what I'm doing. Now, the challenge we are having is if you have a region or a town that does not have a vision, it's very difficult to create jobs. And also, because if you have a vision, like you say, Omaheke is a cattle country, what does it mean? So otherwise, we are going to sit, even when you look at a morning program, you look at our presenters, our Deputy Prime Minister, our ministers, there is no one message that we can connect to that message. Here they will be talking about bringing investors. Yet they say we have investors, which are the local people. At the same time, we are talking about to create jobs. For example, if you make an example of hydrogen power, it takes 7 years. People are hungry. So you leave us to say, what does that mean? Because we need to have a vision for the region. Hopapes have to have a vision where we can connect. And also we need to have a leader that have vision. Because if you say that we have a question like you say, what measure, who can create jobs? How is job going to be created if we cannot have a direction? For example, maybe if I have to make it practical, you take a town like Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch was just a town like Hopapes. They put a vision on Stellenbosch. They say we are going to have the best university in Stellenbosch, where it can be globally attract the people. And also, we are going to be a wine city. Today, the best university in the world is Stellenbosch. The best wine, you find it in Stellenbosch. But when you come to our towns, we just talk about program and all these good things. All these youth, they are sitting with talent because God did not give us to come here without any talent. We want to innovate. How do we innovate? Without being programmed. For the system of telling us what measure, what we want to innovate. Do we have leaders that are able to create that environment, or do we have a leader that are fighting? Even when you go to, like Hopapes, try to end the waste to go to the landfill. When I'm just discussing with a leader, at first I need to give that concept to the leader to buy it in. Would they buy it in, looking at me as a young Herero, and I don't know where you come from? And that's the challenges we are having. We are having a calling. I remember even the program of Ghana. I was reading the president where he put a vision to say in his provision, they want to have an agriculture program, isn't it? Which, and they invest in that vision. You cannot have our politician to come, we have different, you're talking program, you're talking investor, you're talking job seeking. What is it that you want us to do? Creating job, it seems that we all have solution to create jobs. The things, it's just we don't have the direction, we don't have a vision. Without vision, we are going to perish. This world will be the same.
Thank you very much, thank you very much, thank you very much.
So that is what I want to make a comment. It will be vanity upon vanity if we cannot put a vision for this Omaheke. What is it you want to do in if you say Aminus have a water underground, if you say Epukiro, what is a Epukiro? What is the strength of Epukiro? What is the strength of Oshinene? Otherwise, it's vanity upon vanity. Thank you so much.
Doctor.
Let me address my dear sister. I want to say something to you because you mentioned Ghana. Ghana is 66 years old when we took our sovereignty from the white man. Namibia is just 33 years?
33.
33. I would like to encourage you. I would like to encourage you that the vision is nowhere but here, now. What is happening here? This is the vision now. You have to crawl before you walk.
Yeah. 33 years, yes.
You have to crawl before you walk. And I think there's a saying that you have to work with what you got. I think you have leaders in this region. I've traveled 14 regions. I've never had the opportunity to have this discussion. So I think your leaders, give them a little pat in the back that they are doing something. Because this, what they have organized, trust me, and you can take my number, it's not going to remain here.
I will definitely do that.
I don't get anywhere and stop there. So this is the vision. This is a big deal. And I think just putting this together is part of the vision that you want. So let's support it and let it work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All I'm asking is just to have a vision. That's all. Thank you very much. And it's 33 years. I don't think we need to crawl for 33 years.
Thank you very much. Honorable.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before Honorable comes in, I think it was said here that talk is cheap. But I think if you have listened carefully to the speakers of this morning, what it's attempting and trying to get us do, it is to start looking at ourselves differently so that we can envision the future differently. Now, envisioning can take place at different level. Yes, I'm not taking away the comments at the regional level, institutional level, family level, but also at the individual level. And there's so much in abundance that we have that we are not seeing in that light. Let me take an example of Epukiro. We have 97 villages in Epukiro constituency. Now we made very conservative figures and we work on 60 villages, whereby most of those households had workers, which they are paying 1,500 a month. We reckon that every month, 14 million is being paid to employees or workers or laborers in Epukiro. But guess what? If you do another calculation, basic one, only 4 million remain in Epukiro. 10 million goes to Angola. Because of those people that we are employing, but yet we have a high numbers of unemployment. Now, just take Ochinene, you have Ochinene, you have Aminus, you have Kalahari. And I'm very conservatively, 14 million a month, 10 million roughly goes out because you know the workers that are working there, they save this money and they send back home. All what we are saying in the message from the morning, let's introspect, look at ourselves differently, let's envision and let's change, and we can do it ourselves by starting here, right here in this Omaheke hall. The other things can follow. Of course, we're not trying to have excuses that we are not all enough. Yes, we have made good stride. Doctor have said it, Ghana has taken them to get there. But all what we want, and that's why it was mentioned, through collaboration, partnership, working together. And if we spend more time and energy on things that can improve our living conditions of our people, we can make it better. But if we opt to spend time on issues that divide us, on issues that does not have, that is relevant to the cause that we are talking about now, we're not gonna get there. So realistically as youth, and I want to see this sometimes in the eyes of the youth where you say, you also denouncing yourself on certain things that are happening in our community, at family level, at constituency level, or in different groupings. To say, we as youth, we are not interested in that cause. This is our cause. So you need to identify yourself first. Now, when you look at the whole business cycle, is that, of course, you could have a very good vision. But if you don't have a depth of self-knowledge, you're not going to go far. So, but nevertheless, just a comment based on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think with trainings that should come, we need to define some of these terms. What is vision? How can we share the vision of a country? How can we translate leaders' vision into our own vision? Those are the discussions that we need to have at the later stage. I've got two last hands that I will entertain. No, two. There was a hand. Oh, is it you?
It was me.
Okay. All right.
Good evening. My name is Tusi Kadire. I'm from Ochinene constituency. Of course, I've been an entrepreneur in Khobabu's constituency for quite some time now. Speaking of SME development, the Ministry of Industrialization and Trade and NDC has done a great job creating SME Park. The Geelstaligis and the Blaustaligis in the location, creating opportunities for youth or members of the community to really come up with their own businesses there. But the only problem or my concern, or maybe the concern of the community that is there or the youth, is we have created these wonderful places, these wonderful structures, but currently as we speak, 80% of the stalls do not have water or electricity. So how do we plan on empowering the youth, or how do we plan on informing the youth so that they can come up with their own businesses or make money if they are situated at a place where there's no water or electricity? When you do not have water and you are for instance, a hair stylist or whatever, it's unhygienic. If you're unable to wash your hands afterwards or so forth, it's very unhygienic. So maybe this is one thing that maybe the government can really sit and see if they can come up with different changes. I don't know, the rent is high. The rent is, people, I'm sure there's quite a few people here that are renting at the yellow markets and the blue staligis in the location. The rent is very high. A 3x3 market or a 3x3 stall that one can operate in, rent is 1,400, 1,200 per month. Speaking under correction, of course, but I'm paying $1,200 per month for my stall. It's very expensive. I'm sure it's also one of the contributing factors, the fact that the youth or whoever is renting there hasn't been able to pay rent on time. I'm sure it's also the contributing factors to the cuttage of water and electricity. But yeah, maybe the government can look towards that and see if we can make changes to that. Thank you.
It has been noted, it's part of incentives. It should be noted as part of the incentives that needs to be created and given to the young people in terms of that yellow market where the people are operating, so that it can be a conducive environment. I think it will be part of the recommendation. The last one, Honorable Kashideu.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Erwin Vetarera Kashido. I'm the Regional Councillor of Ochinene constituency. And I am part of the initiative of the Omaheke Employment Creation Conference today, of which is a path that has been created for you, young people out there. We have brought you all together as delegates today, 10 each constituency. Let me just start here. We, regional councillors, are not politicians. You are mistaking us for being politicians. We are community workers. Regional councillors are working hand in hand, and we are on the ground with you people, everyone, from the firstborn, a little one to the 100, someone 100 years old. So we are more on the ground. So we are not politicians. That's why you see when somebody passes on, they will always say, even if the minister is there will be a slot for a councillor because he is a community worker. That's why. That's one. We are coming from a background where we are taught that if you have a job, then you should know that you are secured in life. That is not true. I met a very young Ghanaian lady 3-4 years back at UNAM. Of course, my wife is a lecturer at the university. It was her friend. She said she have resigned as a lecturer at a university in Ghana, pursuing agriculture. She has bought pigs, she has bought chickens and all this, and she's making more money than what she was paid at the university. The only problem that we have as black people is that we are afraid of taking risk. We are not lazy. We have been taught not to take risk. And that is why most of you young people, you will find a very a young lady who can braid hair, who is probably, how much is one head? 150, let's take 100. Then you have 5 customers a day. It's a $500 a day. How much is it per week? $500 a day. How much is it per week? 2,000. 2,000 times 4 is how much? 8,000. Now let me tell you, $8,000. If every day that you have done your hair, you take this money before 5 o'clock, you deposit it into your bank account, you don't touch any penny. Even if you have to walk back home, if you don't have taxi money, you're not going to touch this money because this money is for a business. You take this money, you bank. At the end of the month, you will have 8,000. Believe me, do you know how much is a laborer paid at any government institution? $2,700. If the benefits are the social security and all these are subtracted, that person end up being paid 1,200. Who is making more money? It's you who are braiding hair. It's not the person that is working for the government. The only thing that you have is you are afraid of taking risk. But now, Omaheke Regional Council is saying, young people, we are going to bring you all together under one roof from all different constituencies. Number one, you are going to start talking to one another. What is it that you have in Aminus that we don't have in Ochinene? How do you do ABC? You are going, what is the right word? You are going to do networking, number one. Number two, we are saying as regional council, we are going to empower you, you young people, not you here, but all young people of Omaheke. We are going to empower you, create an conducive environment. Then we are going to train you. Then we are going to fund a project, let me say, of 5 people that have come together from a certain constituency. That's why we have the seed capital fund. Then we are going to see we are going to call for applications, which project is viable. Then we are going to fund you. Then we are going to monitor and evaluate the impact of this project. After monitoring and evaluating, when we see you have become successful, you are going to be left on your own. Then again, we are going to reinvent the wheel. And through that process, as Regional Council of Omaheke, and we want this to be done all over the rest of the 13 regions as well. Therefore, as a region, we have started with something. At least we have started. So, please, young people, there's one thing that we are lacking as well. You people, I've heard there's a welder here, somebody who's good at welding. That somebody will want to work for a white man as an agent. The white man become an agent, because you are the person who's going to weld everything that is here, but your money is going to be paid to someone, and then you are going to get paid by that someone, determining how much his needs are, and then the rest is going to pay you, and that is a white man. But today, in this very same hall, you don't see even one white man. As I have said, we have kettles. We are praising ourselves to be a kettle country. Kettles are owned by us, heard by us. They tell us what do they expect us to do on the kettles that they want to sell, that they want to come and take from us and sell. What do? We dehorn them, we give them injections, we do everything. Then they come and say, they determine our price. They say, I'm going to take this kettle for 3,000. Tomorrow, the very same brother of mine, if he comes and wants to buy that very same kettle, he will be told by the white commercial farmer, no, my kettle, now it's mine. It's 7,000. What has he done to that kettle? Nothing. So we have to start cleaning our heads and think, how are we going to keep what we have? This is our economy. And I'm telling you, young people, there's no one of you that today will be told how to head kettles. Never. You have been trained by your own parents ever since you were a baby. But today, you go to school, to the agricultural college, you are being told, this is how you look after kettles, and you are there wasting your 4 years. Go back. If you can't find a job in Wintu, go out of Havana, go back. Make sure you are telling your people, this guy that is working here, the very same young boy from Angola, I'll look after this kettle. After 5 years, after each year, you are just going to give me one heifer. Every year. In 5 years, we'll have 5. That probably might have multiplied to 7. So that's how you become rich. And every number is starting from number 1. So today, the reason why we brought you here, and all those people, the panelists and everyone, we want you, please, sometimes you are talking too high, eh? Sometimes it's too high for them because we are talking of rural constituencies. We are coming from rural constituencies, our rural setup. We are a rural setup. So sometimes we have the grade 1 up until grade 12 dropouts. Sometimes they might understand your concept that you have here, but sometimes you need to lower a little bit to their level as well, so that they know what is it that they need when they go back. How are they going? The 10 is the ones we said they are going to inspire the others that are at the villages. So please, this coming 3 days, can we make it a bit simple? Can we simplify what we are saying here so that they can put it in practice? So I submit my honorable chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We work with what we have. one speaker have talked about that. Work with what we have. If we have got a kettle, use that kettle as an opportunity for moving forward. We have got 2-3 days that will be here and speak and talk. But we will not only going to talk, we also want to put some actions, as we have done, as you have seen in the first session. So bear with me, the opportunity will come for all of you to talk. For now, I would like to thank the presenters, the speakers that have enlightened us on the subject of the role of government and policymakers in employment creation. I think we might have taken 1 or 2 things. I think the session have created an impetus for us moving forward, and have created an environment that is conducive for us to think, so that at least we can create employment opportunities for the young people of Omaheke. So, Honorable.
Yes, maybe just the concluding remarks, and I'm taking from Dr. Banda, what he said, that the most important creatures on the planet Earth are human beings. But once again, the deepest edge in the human nature is the desire to be important. All of us here want to feel and to be important. But now, as the leader of the region, that's why we have that burning desire to see you grow to the point where you equal our own competency of surpassing it. And together, if we could work together and have this dialogue, but dialogues of prosperity partnership, not sheep talks that we said, I think we can get this country and our region moving forward. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Septi Bukula, thank you very much, the founder and director of Renso Networking Holdings South Africa. Thank you for coming. You're welcome. Honorable Regional Councillor, Epukiro Constituency, Honorable Paki Pagare, thank you very much. Doctor, you inspire us. Thank you very much. We will have to move to the next session. Are we discharged? Yes, you are discharged.